At an amateur catfishing tournament in Tennessee, a guy named Roy arrived in an old pickup truck with a styrofoam cooler and a battered canvas backpack. Next to him were 5 teams with top-of-the-line equipment, $600 carbon rods, imported Japanese reels, one $200 sonar bolted to the bow of their boats, and $80 attractant spray for each bait box. The tournament coordinator even gave Roy a second glance, as if to ask if he had registered for the right event. Roy ignored all that. He pulled a small brown vial from his vest pocket, sprayed the worms with 2 quick movements, and launched them. No GPS, no sonar, no ceremony. In the end, Roy had 31 pounds of heavy catfish. The second-place finisher had 18. The guy with the $200 sonar had finished with 11. And the team that spent the most on equipment, an easy $2,000 between the two, finished in 5th place with 9 pounds and a look of complete ignorance. Nobody could understand what had happened. I was there as an observer, filming the closing, and when I went to ask Roy what he had used during the fishing trip, he smiled, reached into his vest pocket, and showed me the little bottle. Pure anise extract. 0.89 in the cake aisle at Walmart. It wasn't any special product. It didn't come from any fishing store. It was the same jar your grandmother used to make Christmas cookies. Comment below which city you're watching from. I need to know where the fishermen, who are still genuinely curious, are coming from. Roy learned this from his father, who learned it from his grandfather, who fished in the Cumberland River before there were any fishing stores nearby. There were no catalogs, no specialized magazines. There was the river, observation, and knowledge passed down orally by the water's edge. And the most absurd thing of all? Roy never spent more than $3 on bait in his entire fishing life. He never needed to. But there's a specific reason why this works so well that no $80 spray can replicate. And the industry would much rather you never find out. But first, let me tell you why this knowledge disappeared from circulation for decades. The American market for artificial lures and attractants generates over $1.2 billion annually. This number exists because most anglers believe they need off-the-shelf products to fish well. $80 attractant spray, $55 enzymatic liquid, $40 concentrated paste, $60 imported boilies. If people discovered that an $0.89 item from the bakery surpasses all of that, this entire market would collapse. Shelves would be empty. Catalogs would lose their meaning. And companies know this. Roy is not an isolated case. Old fishermen from Kentucky, Arkansas, and Louisiana, they all had versions of this trick, each adapted to the local species and the type of water they fished in. Kept in their memories, passed down in riverside conversations, never written down anywhere because there was no need to. It was living knowledge. Meanwhile, stores grew, catalogs thickened, influencers were sponsored, and this knowledge was buried under pretty packaging and marketing promises. Roy's little glass of glass cost $0.89. The second-place finisher's rod in the tournament cost $700. I think you get the message. Now, before we jump straight into the step-by-step process, you need to understand what happens in the water when this extract comes into contact with the river. Because that's when it really clicks, and you stop looking at it as an old man's trick and start understanding it as real science. This practical knowledge, what the old-timers actually used, how they prepared it, where they applied it, and why it worked, is the kind of thing that has been lost as the industry grew and traditional methods were discarded as superstition. It is precisely this type of technique that I have compiled in high-level fishing, the water game. Methods that the old southern fishermen passed down orally, never documented, almost extinct, gathered in one place. Expensive synthetic sprays don't work any better than pure extract. They work worse. They were developed to generate profit margins, not to mimic how fish actually respond biologically. The link below has a complete guide to help you understand what truly attracts fish and stop wasting money on off-the-shelf products. Scroll down. But why anise specifically? What is it in that $0.89 bottle that makes a 5-pound largemouth bass or a bottom-dwelling catfish turn its head in murky water and go in the right direction? The compound responsible is called anethole. It is a naturally occurring phenyl ether, present in high concentration in pure anise extract. When you apply it to the bait and cast, the anethole begins to dissolve in the water in parts per billion, an absurdly low concentration that the human sense of smell would never detect, even with their nose pressed against the bottle. For a catfish, it's like shining a spotlight on the dark bottom of the river. A catfish's olfactory system has over 250,000 receptors spread throughout its body. Not just in the nose, but also in the barbels, mouth, and skin. No aquatic predator in the United States has a more highly calibrated sense of smell. When anethole hits the current, it creates a chemical trail that travels upstream or downstream depending on the flow. The fish detects the signal, locates the direction of the source, and moves. Not by conscious choice, but by a feeding reflex activated in the brainstem, the oldest part of the brain, which functions before any decision. The fish's lateral line detects vibration and pressure in the water. It's their natural sonar system, but it's their sense of smell that triggers active hunting behavior. These are two distinct systems working together. Anethole activates the sense of smell, which in turn triggers predatory behavior. It's an automatic, involuntary sequence. The simplest analogy: imagine you have an empty stomach and you smell a hamburger coming from the window of a restaurant 2 blocks away. You don't sit down and decide you're hungry. You simply walk towards it. Anethole does exactly that to catfish and bass, only at such a low concentration that it seems impossible. And it works anyway, because their sense of smell is thousands of times more sensitive than ours. The synthetic spray attempts to mimic this signal with a laboratory formula, a formula that has passed through cost, packaging, and pricing committees before reaching the shelf. The pure extract already has the natural, unadulterated compound in a much higher concentration. For $0.89s. That's what Roy knew, and the 5 competitors with $2,000 worth of equipment didn't. Now that you understand why, let me show you exactly how to prepare this at home, because there's one preparation detail that most people get wrong right away. What you will need: pure anise extract. Look for pure anise extract in the baking section of the supermarket. The word you need to check on the packaging is pure. Not anise flavoring and not anise flavored. Flavoring has diluted synthetic flavoring and does not carry the actual concentration of anethole that activates the fish's reflex. Average price: $0.89 to $1.20, depending on the brand. Empty dropper bottle, pharmacy or drugstore, less than $1. The smaller the better. You want dose control, not volume. Filtered water at room temperature. Do not use tap water with chlorine. Chlorine reacts with anethole and degrades part of the compound before it even reaches the river. Total cost of everything together: less than $2. This amount will last for 25 to 30 relaxed fishing trips. The $80 spray from the store will last a maximum of 3 trips if you're economical. Step 1. Place exactly 12 drops of the pure extract into the clean, dry dropper bottle. Don't overdo it thinking more is better. Above 18 drops for this proportion, the anethole begins to create an odor that fish associate with danger, not prey. Their sense of smell is calibrated this way. Step 2. Top up with 3 level tablespoons of filtered water. The low ratio is intentional. You want a functional concentration, not excessive dilution that will disappear before leaving a trace in the river. Step 3. Cover and shake for a full 30 seconds. The mixture will become slightly milky, almost cloudy. This is anethole in aqueous suspension, exactly what you want to see. If it becomes completely clear, the extract was not pure enough. Step 4. Apply 2 drops directly to the bait, preferably at the point of contact with the hook or on the ends of the worm. Cast within 90 seconds of applying. The anethole begins to evaporate rapidly from the surface of the bait outside the water. This ratio of 12 drops to 3 tablespoons is a solid starting point for catfish and bass in warm water. The guide has other combinations that riverside fishermen in the South have tested over decades for different species and water types. It's worth consulting before your next outing, depending on what you're fishing for. Storage tip. Keep the bottle inside your fishing bag, away from direct sunlight. UV light degrades anethole in 4 to 5 hours of continuous exposure. In the refrigerator with the lid tightly closed, the mixture lasts for weeks without losing any potency. Recipe in hand, mix ready. But there's one specific mistake that ruins all that preparation, even when you've done everything right. And most people make this mistake without realizing it. Where it works best? Cast near submerged structures. A log on the bottom, a large rock, a bend in the river where the current breaks and creates a zone of still water just behind it. This is where catfish and bass lie in wait, hoping to get their prey carried away by the current. You don't want to fish in open, still water. You want to fish where the flow carries the scent trail to where the fish already are. In lakes, it looks for the shade of the docks, the edge of underwater vegetation, or any change in the bottom that appears on the map. A 3-foot drop is enough of a structure for catfish to stay still and wait. Ideal timing: dawn and the 30 minutes before dusk. The water temperature drops during these periods, the fish's metabolism increases, and anethole travels further in the current, because the colder water increases density and carries the chemical signal more efficiently and for longer. Species that respond best. Catfish is the absolute champion. Channel cat, blue cat, and flathead all respond strongly to anethole. Largemouth bass is second, especially in dark or murky water where their sense of smell compensates for low visibility. Crappies also react when you fish near the bottom, especially in winter. The fatal mistake. And Roy told me this with the frankness of someone who's seen people make the same mistake 1,000 times on the riverbank. Many people apply the extract, cast it, and keep fiddling with the bait every 2 or 3 minutes, thinking that being active is better. It seems productive, but it's destroying the chemical trail you just created. Anethole needs time to build an olfactory column in the current. Old fishermen called this making the trail. Do you move it before 10 minutes? The trail disappears. The fish that was following the trail loses the signal and abandons the direction. Launch. Wait. Let the water do the work for you. Think about your next fishing trip. While others throw $80 worth of over-the-counter spray and change bait every 5 minutes thinking something's wrong, you bring a 0.89 bottle you prepared in 2 minutes in your kitchen. In 3 hours of fishing, you'll catch more than the guy with $2,000 worth of equipment next to you. And when he turns around and asks what you used, you'll have a very interesting choice to make. Click now, secure your access to high-level fishing, the water game, and let these strategies start transforming your next fishing trips. The link is in the first pinned comment. When you return from the water applying what you've learned, come back here and comment, "I caught more." That will be your commitment to your evolution in fishing. And perhaps it's exactly the step that separates the stories you hear from the stories you'll start telling. What Roy carried in that little brown bottle existed before tournaments, before fishing stores, before sponsorships and catalogs. It was a man, a river, and the knowledge his father passed down in riverside conversations. The industry didn't erase that through carelessness or accident. It erased it because you can't charge $80 for an item that costs $0.89. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video.